Are you ready to party? Let's go.
Kyle Conforti, welcome to the podcast, dude.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. You gotta stay close to that mic.
Welcome.
You're gonna hear me probably say
Even
a lot.
closer.
Stay close to the mic or whatever. But dude, thanks for coming out. My goodness, we've been trying to do this for a long time, very long time.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Happy to be here.
Oh, you better be happy to be here. We got fucking Jordan's back. Sam will be here pretty soon. Hey, my man, dude.
Sorry, that was loud.
But Kyle, we all know each other because we are all in the same business, I guess you could say. But you've been doing that for a while, man. How long have you been in the fire service?
Probably since 2010, 2011. I think you were one of my instructors at El Camino at one point. I'm still trying to pin you down where I knew you from. But,
I know we knew each other from somewhere, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I'm like, I know I've seen this guy somewhere. It's either Did you go to Long Beach City College for your courses?
a couple. I pretty much was on the Van Wilder schedule, so I went everywhere. Just trying to make it last.
Did you minor in everything?
I did. As much as I could, for sure.
All right.
What school was that at? The Van Wilder.
My parents weren't stoked on it, but, we finished, so it was good.
Hey, dude, I just got my freaking degree. It took me 13 years, so it is what it is, bro. When we get stuff done, we get it done.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
it is what it is. But you actually own a company that Jordan and I follow on Instagram as well. And I think we didn't really even know or have an idea that you were the person who started this, and this is called Sea of Mud Apparel, right?
Yes, sir.
When did you start that?
2020. I started it, because politics were hot and heavy. I started trying to get my mind out of politics.
Okay.
I'm like, I just need to do something creative. And I used to design my own shirts, and people would ask me, like, where'd you get that? So I started making my own. But then the political stuff are the ones that evoke emotion, and it got the ball rolling on that. And so it's like I'm right back into it again.
Stuff like that? Like Jordan has ever now?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's been hot and heavy. I like how you commented on that. That's really cool, though. So that was kind of your outlet to find, something else to focus on instead of kind of feeling overrun from the day-to-day political jargon.
Well, and I don't know. You're married, you have kids, and it starts to sort of creep into your personal life. You see that stuff all the time where the memes where when your wife asks you not to talk politics at the table or something,
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I'd have to really work hard to just not verbal diarrhea what was on my mind for that week's news cycle. So I wanted to get into something. I always thought Boot Barn's clothing lines were sort of generic. So I'm like, I'm going to just start diving into that and doing my own art and doing all that stuff. And it's been fun.
Oh, I think
a good outlet.
I think the name is awesome. Sea of Mud. Yeah. Was there a certain thing that inspired you to go to that route?
Yeah. So Sea of Mud is, I don't know if you're familiar with the Texas Revolution.
Yeah.
The Alamo, the Mexicans took over the Alamo with Santa Ana. Well, that spring was the most wet spring in their history. So it played into some of the battles that were won and lost, Gilead. So they called it the Sea of Mud. Eventually, we won, and California and Texas became part of the United States, and they defeated Santa Ana. Also, I wanted to direct it like a frontiersman, outdoorsy type vibe. Excuse me. So Davy Crockett had a knife that was made, and they call it the Sea of Mud knife. So that's sort of where the origins came from. I wanted to have a little bit of a historical value, and then a little bit of a frontiersman outdoor type vibe too. So.
That's freaking rad, dude.
Dude, so much deeper than what I was thinking.
Yeah, I
was thinking, I was like, I can kind of see it that everything's muddy, right? There's no clear content. That just a perspective, right?
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Texans get it. Californians, and especially the political part of it, they're like, oh, well, you're a sea of shit. I'm like, okay, yeah, but
debatable.
But the Texans are like, that's great. I'm like, so.
God, dude. Okay, so Sea of Mud, I love where you came up with that name because I'm a history buff. I love that stuff, dude. It's legit. How much hate or crap have you gotten, like messages online on Instagram and stuff? Because some of your stuff, it's awesome. I love it. And you're right. It evokes emotion, which is always, to me, fun. But some people kind of take it a little too serious.
I think initially it was a lot to keep up with. There you go.
Is that the Sea of Mud knife?
It looks similar, but the one that's in a museum is more
The more rusty looking one?
rusted out. Yeah.
Like this?
There you go. That's it.
Can you show that on the camera?
Yeah, let me pull it. I still have my Galaxy phone.
Oh,
But
my
no, hold
God.
on.
Here
Hold
we
on.
go.
Hold on.
Speaking of antiques, yeah.
Last night, we got the new iPhone.
Hit that bell.
Yeah.
Finally, dude.
I have converted. Well, I will be converted, even though it went against everything. That's a Sea of Mud knife. Can you see it on the...
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that thing's crazy looking.
That's legit, dude.
Yeah. Anyway, not to take away from what we're talking about right now.
No, but
I will be...
can we just acknowledge this? Because I've had to deal with this for years with him. I think ever since I met him.
Yep.
He's one of the only few friends that I have where you put him in a group text or you text him and the bubble's green. It's like, dude, come on. what are we doing here?
Not just green, but all videos, pictures, all pixelated because...
Come in like a centimeter by centimeter. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like the Nintendo's like Super Nintendo version of the picture getting sent to the group. I don't know why they can't bridge that gap between the two companies. I mean, come on now, let's figure it out. But it was enough to get me to convert, and now I'll be about 12 years behind the curve when it comes to utilizing iPhones.
But you did it.
But I did it.
Yeah.
So I can airdrop. Ayo.
It's not where you start, it's where you finish.
Oh, man, that couldn't be more true.
Wow. I'm happy that you finally changed.
Thanks.
We got to talk about that for a second.
Hey, I was like, just sorry, not to take away from the segment. So, but yes, I'm back in. I will be successfully texting into groups and integrating pictures and videos. So now I'll be hip and cool.
And the bubble will be blue.
Yeah.
It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Freaking awesome, dude.
But go. Okay. Anyway, but going back to the story of kind of how you picked the name out. So, when you started selling, were you did you try to go more so in a Texas, market, or were you just starting here and just kind of seeing where it was going?
Predominantly, it started in Texas, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Like I had a guy out there that was making shirts for me. Then I had a guy that was doing it here that used to work for our company, our department. So I've mixed and matched. And when COVID hit, it sort of it changed everything. At one point, I had it where it was just like drop shipping, where I didn't really touch a lot of it. I just designed it, put it up. When people add to cart, it got made somewhere else and shipped out, and it was sort of...
Oh, that's easy.
It was sort of nice. It was like effortless. And then that allows you to do the creative part more, because you're not doing the business side of it and the labor part of it. But once COVID hit, now it's like I pretty much do everything, which is a lot of work. But
well, so why did it change though? Because COVID hit, like that company went out of business. They didn't have workers.
Yeah,
Do you know?
They because of the lockdowns, they weren't having anyone work in warehouses, and so you couldn't find someone that would, risk, getting in trouble or whatever. So people were just shutting down their businesses I think that was sort of by design. It's like shut down for 2 weeks. It's only gonna be 2 weeks, so people would do that thinking like I can withhold a 2 week threshold, and then it keeps going and going and going. So
I gotcha.
Well, a fun fact to this whole COVID debacle, I see that it was at New York is rolled back all the COVID restrictions that are based upon vaccination.
Right before the midterms. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's talk of, and when I say there's talk, I just read an article about it actually this morning, was saying that the question will be, are they going to, like for public entities, not for private business, but so your police departments, fire departments, whatnot, are they going to rehire the people that they fired because they didn't comply with the COVID vaccine?
Do you see that video of the captain? The
FDNY captain.
Yeah.
Right? Or lieutenant or something like that.
Mm-hmm. There's just some things you see online that made me so mad and almost on the verge of tears. You just feel for that guy. I just want to give him a hug. You're like, dude, dude, you're a warrior. Like
You're talking about the video that when he was in it was like a courthouse or a public hearing when he was explaining that he'd given his life to the department and sacrificed.
Can't even go eat somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I'd like to see them obviously get their jobs back, but at one point I think that's like an admission of guilt. And then if they give them their jobs back, then then that opens up a whole nother can of worms of.
But isn't rolling back those restrictions and everything, it's a slap in their face, and isn't that kind of already admission like, hey, this we screwed up, we're gonna pull this back now? Like, isn't that kind of an admission of like we went wrong? That's what I mean, to me, that's what it seems like. And those people, the fire, police, sanitation workers, they have so much of that right in New York.
Totally.
How do they not get their jobs back, or at least sue and win?
Yeah.
So, that without going too deep into the COVID stuff,
It fires me up sometimes. It pisses me off, man.
But it should, right? That's the thing. Whether you agree or disagree with it, the fact is that it's like, okay, a lot changed, right? And whether it was changed because you had the choice to change in your own personal realm with however you feel about it, it was being pushed from the top down, right? So that means people essentially lost their jobs because they maybe didn't agree with the protocol that was getting put out there. Flash forward 2 years, and now we're in a position where they're rolling things back. Something I like to bring up because I think it's ironic. It's actually really not funny. It's more sad, but it is kind of funny too. But like even like the CDC, the WHO, one of the COVID treatment protocols now has ivermectin as one of them. Right?
Wait a minute. Isn't ivermectin
horse dewormer?
Isn't that the one Joe Rogan took, and they gave him a bunch of crap, and they altered the video, make him look all super gray when he was doing his like selfie talk or whatever? That's the one, right?
Yep.
Oh my God.
And hydroxychloroquine's in there too now. It's like,
is it?
Yeah,
it
but
made
it's
the list too.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know. It was a sad point in time, and I think it's more than just people like losing their jobs, which is tragic enough. But I mean, my wife was pregnant, and she was mandated to get it.
Oh my!
While she was pregnant.
Wait a minute. So you had a COVID? I say COVID baby, right? It was probably before.
I had 2 COVID babies.
Dude,
no kidding.
how
I got 2
was
under
that
2.
going into the hospital to give birth? They're not. Did they let you in?
The first one, yeah, they let me in on both of them. I think, but we were in a unique. It's just great being in Orange County. I mean,
yeah. Oh.
I mean, if you step over, 500 feet into the LA County line, like things drastically change, and they're still changed to this day. Like I had to go to a doctor's appointment in LA this week, and it was like, we're still doing this. You almost forget because Orange County just wasn't ran that way.
Yeah, it was like, it's funny because where I live, I say both of us, right? We're pretty close to the Orange County border, and you said it's so spot on. I think I've said it on here before, but from when I fill up fuel over here to crossing over into Orange County, that's like 2 blocks away, night and day. It's like nothing had ever happened. Everyone's going about their life. Everyone can take their own risk and make their own decision what they want to do. You need to continue your life and keep working and providing, right? Then you come into LA County, it's like a ghost town. And then you're not wearing a mask and people are like looking at you like, oh my God, everyone, this guy. It's weird. It's night and day. That's why I wonder, like, when you had your kid, that had to be really interesting to have a child during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that the first time, he was November of 2020 when he was born. It really wasn't that bad. I wish I wasn't allowed to leave the hospital. I had to stay there. And then we had some complications. We ended up being there for almost a week. So to be stuck in a hospital for a week was sort of gnarly. I'm like, and it's my first kid. I know nothing about that. I don't know anything about lactation and, all the intricacies of having a child and that first week. Yeah. So it's like, I'm trying to call my mom, like, hey, what do I do? And that's a weird conversation. It's like my wife's sitting here like, hey, I have all these questions. I'm like, how do I word this? It's like, as much as we can be medical professionals, I'm like, this is weird. But the second time was, which was sort of crazy. Going back to my wife getting mandated, they ended up granting her religious exemption.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which was like, when they mandated her, I swear I was up for like 3 days straight, just diving into the CDC, like trying to find an answer to circumvent this.
Oh, I'm sure it stressed you out because
It was unreal.
Yeah, they're forcing her to put something in her body that she doesn't want to, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that, it's like here, just rationally, it's like, why would you inject something into your body while you're growing another human being? Like
That's a solid point.
Even if it's just a flu shot, like you don't need to introduce your body with the flu. Like while you're, you know what I mean? Why get yourself sick or risk it? It's like you're fine. Like, let things develop naturally. But after that, and that was the one good thing about my company is I posted this thing because I was at a loss. I was like, I can't figure out how to navigate these waters. And I was kept running into dead ends. Like you go to the CDC website, and these are supposed to be like the highest.
Useless. They
had links that would go to dead pages. And then they'd have like they wouldn't call her a pregnant female. They call them a pregnant person. I'm like, this whole thing has been like, that whole agency is so politicized. Like reading it for as long as I was, like made me sick. I'm like how do I take these? How does anybody take that seriously?
Right.
And again, my own personal feelings, but when they're saying, oh, this is safe and effective to take for pregnant people, and it was based off of a phone survey that they put out something where you just call the phone, and you don't have to verify if you're pregnant or not. They don't have to verify like if you had a child or not, and you get $100. It's like that's
okay. Let's talk about that for a second. That is so incredibly insane to me because we're all paramedics here, and we've gone through school, and it's definitely shortened. We learned a lot to do a lot with a little and giving drugs and all this stuff. But I remember going through pharmacology, and then they're teaching us like these drugs and the testing and trials that they go through and the years that it took to get that drug just right. So people would, you don't have a lot of people with unknowns taking this. You cover it, right? It's like at the end of those commercials on TV, right? The person at the end's talking real fast. You could be allergic to this. You could bleed from your butt. Your penis could fall off. Your tits. You're just like, wait, what? I don't want to take this.
Right. You're like.
And then you're telling me that they did a freaking phone survey. No human trials.
Nope.
I'm just going to trust the general public on the phone here. And you just tell me how it went for you. Perfect. That's the rule of law.
That was the extent of it. Yeah. It was. So again, having my company, I posted this thing that was like, it was probably like a low point for me. I was just begging for someone to help me. Like, if anyone has any information, can you please like DM me?
That's got to be a tough spot to be in.
It sucked. And especially like, I don't know, being a firefighter, you like to solve problems. You like to help people. And then when you can't help your own wife and your unborn child, it's like my first test of being a father. And I'm like powerless. It was terrible. But the influx of people through social media, which I think generally is a bad thing, but the influx of people with just so much positivity, like so many resources, reach out to these people, reach out to these people, reach out to this. Like, I'm talking like more DMs than I had followers. Like it was,
wow.
It was a heartwarming. It's like, God, there's good people out there. It's like people like offering like make money, like, hey, we'll take care of you. We'll do this, we'll do that. I'm like, it was a really, really cool feeling, like rewarding,
It's cool that you did that because, again, we'll say it in my opinion, but it seems like nowadays, if you're not a part or agree with what mainstream media or culture is saying, you are completely out. And you feel like, oh my gosh, I feel, if you speak up, you're going to get hated on, you're going to get crazy messages, right? And you had the guts to do it. And then you realize there's more people out there like me, actually, that 100%. Don't agree with this. So like what they're telling me is not the truth.
Yeah. And I think that's like the big thing is that, of course I get the guys that come in and, say this, that, and the other and are like just bad human beings. But once you start finding out that, okay, there's actually more like-minded people out there, there's more of us than you can wrap your mind around. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff they want to prevent. They don't want you to have that epiphany. They want you to feel like you're alone.
Hit that bell. Very true. Well said.
Yeah. But I think that's the that's the overarching situation that we've dealt with, I think, as a society over the last couple of years, right? Is that you have the social media influence that picks up off the backs of the mainstream media influence. And if you're counter narrative for whatever subject matter that is, that if you hold a different opinion or a different court of opinion on the social media, you instantaneously get blasted, right? And I think, but I think that's the perception that they want to be perceived, right? So it'll try to keep people at bay to, maybe voice what their opinion is if it's counter narrative. But what you're explaining, and I think which is great, is that the good part about the social media is that it is a huge network, and there is opportunity to meet like-minded people, or at least, or not even like overall, but just subject matter, right? So if you're going on there and you're asking questions because in the beginning your family's faced with a huge decision on the vaccine, which again, it's like flag us or whatever. I mean, we've talked about it a lot over the last 2 years with this, but it's like there's no clear-cut anything, right? It's like just because someone says, oh, the CDC says it's safe for women that are pregnant. Right. Well, once you dive in like you did, and I did that. It's funny, as you were talking, dude, I'm pretty much on the same page as you. We had our first kid in January of 2020. And then we had our second one in February of 2022. And both times, the first go, it was so early in the COVID thing. It was like we had to stay at the hospital as well. They weren't super strict with, like they weren't asking you, like, hey, are you vaccinated or not? Or can you show a negative COVID test? We kind of schemed in there. But for our second one, I actually had COVID. My wife had COVID. Our son had COVID. And she was going in to get a C-section that week, right? So I was tripping.
Oh, I bet.
I'm thinking, like, I'm not going to be able to be there.
Now you're going to have the baby at home or something.
Well, but we couldn't because it was he was breached. So we weren't in a position to where we can ride this out. So I'm tripping out. Like originally I tried to stay at a hotel because I was like, I just want to make sure no one else gets it. Next day, find out that, they both had fevers. It kind of lasted a week. And like, we were all good. You know what I mean? We were sick, but we weren't like debilitating sick or nothing. But that next process, we were going to the hospital. Originally, they said that, like, hey, you're not going to be able to be here. And I'm like thinking,
the hell I'm not.
I'm going to be a viral video. I'm going to be one of those people who
100%.
I'm going to be Karen hardcore. No offense to any Karens out there, but just using the name association. So sorry. There we go.
There you go.
So it's kind of like, I'm like, okay, well, who do we do? Anyways, we ended up talking. So there's like a whole like kind of backdoor type scenario that you can go through with certain hospitals because their like basically protocol for the hospital varies between hospitals. I was able to be there at the hospital without, we were like in like isolation basically. And, actually I wasn't able to be in there for the surgery because it was a C-section, but, which again, like I was having a hard time with, but it was one of those things where I was like,
Did they let you come in at the end?
No. I just waited in a room and I paced for an hour and a half until I was hoping to find out that like my wife's okay and the baby's okay,
Gotcha.
And then we had to be there. Like we couldn't take they said we couldn't take our masks off for risk of exposure from the newborn, which again, like I'm not like anti anything. I mean, I'm more of a commonsensical. It's like if we're sick, I don't want to get my baby sick.
With it. Yeah,
of course, 100%. Which I think a lot of people are, And I say that loosely because I saw some dude driving yesterday with 2 masks on. I saw the double loop in there, and I was like, he was by himself in his own car with the window down, and I was just like, that's the reason.
Yeah.
Why we still have some shit like this.
Dude, I saw a meme where it said like people who wear masks in their car, this is you. Like, or men who wear masks in their car, this is you. And it was a girl holding a guy's legs up against the wall, making it
That's awesome.
I thought it was so funny.
And it's like I've seen that picture and it's hilarious.
So great.
Yeah, or it's like those memes first came out when the mask mandates were going out, where people were wearing their mask, like the chin diapers, like with their nose out, and it's like if you wear your mask like this, it's the same thing as like pulling your pants down, let your dong hang out over the top, and walking around.
Well, who was that coach? There was a coach who put female panties over his face. I think he was.
Was it a football coach?
It was a pro football coach.
It was something where he put he had like women's underwear over his face. Pretty funny.
Classic.
I love it.
But sorry, I was just trying to relate with your story when you're talking about that. I was like, dude, that's crazy experience.
It was very crazy. The second time, because she had her religious exemption, they gave her a list of medication that she couldn't take. And they were so benign. They were like ibuprofen and Motrin. And it was like, these two were tested with fetal cells, so you can't take any of these. Well, my wife's a nurse. So, you know, it's like we had our second child in network with where she works. And I guess it was like flagged on her page because the nurses that would come in and take care of us were like, oh, you haven't been vaccinated? And I'm like, how do you know that? Like, why is that a thing? And it's like a star on her medical record page. And then, so we give them this list of things that she can't take because we're, you know, supposed, like, you know, you're supposed to have HIPAA, but it's like, how, like, well, if she takes any of those, then her work's going to find out and then pull her, you know, I mean, they could, I imagine it's just a keystroke, go look at her, go, you know, invade her privacy and go look at her records.
Yeah.
So it was, that part was sort of crazy. I'm like, where's the logic in what we're doing here? So
I think the answer to that is there's none. There was no logic. It was just a bunch of shooting. It was throwing darts at the board to see what would stick because like you can't, because like and all of that, I mean, just think of the amount of like look from a legal standpoint with HIPAA being such a strong thing, right? As far as what's your protection as an individual, your medical security, essentially, if you will. It's so tight knit that, you know, we all know that if we were to say something about a patient being treated to a non-family and or first responder that got leaked out, I mean, or look at, for a great example is look at what happened with Kobe Bryant. You know, rest in peace.
100%.
But his wife just won that lawsuit against the was it the LA sheriffs, right?
I think sheriffs and the fire department too, right?
Yeah, no, that because that video that got leaked around quite a bit, and like it's terrible. Like, you know what I mean?
Wait,
like
did you see it?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, yeah.
And I wouldn't condone it if I could.
Don't look it up.
Yeah, but you know that's such an ironclad law base that you would think that lawyers would be jumping at the opportunity to do these, to sue, because the whole COVID vaccine, that was something like everyone was asking, you know, like, or as you bring someone to the hospital, they're like, are they vaccinated? You know, and you're like, so what if they aren't? You're not going to treat them in any different way, right? You know, and but it's all covered by the. You know, it's like, well, there's a lot of different things there, but the overarching thing is that it's covered because we're in an emergency usage authorization. So we just gave no liability to anyone because we're in this gray area, that's where the problem, going back to, are the guys going to get hired? Can they even get back hired? If they did, or let's say they like say you got the letter, you were one of the guys that got fired because, or gals that got fired that, you know, because you didn't get vaccinated. If they said, hey, you're going to be able to be reinstated, and you're like, I'm suing you for damages. You know, you destroyed my career. You destroyed my public perception.
Right.
I'm not going to go back to work with a bunch of people who think I'm a piece of shit because I didn't do this. You damaged me mentally. I would think that those people would be in a good position to try to sue whoever agency they work for to at least obtain some money for the damages and mental anguish that they put them through. However, I bet you that shit gets sidestepped because they'll go, we were just doing what we were told.
Oh, it's going to be past the buck, totally.
Yeah. And I think a lot of our court systems now, if you can look at some of the stuff that's going on, you know, the process is the punishment. It's like they're just going to drag these people out in court and bleed them for all they have to get them nothing, you know? And call me a pessimist, but it's like, and that's why I look at that captain and I'm like, dude, this is a guy that's like just hitting his stride in his career. Like he was thriving. Yeah. And you took that from him. Like, you know, that's not the United States that I grew up like loving, you know, and it's tragic. And I think with COVID and everything, we're hitting that point where, you know, we talk about a lot like mental health, and I think everyone's sort of, the population as a whole is just waiting for this to have a defining moment that it's over so we can, you know, have that reset, that mental reset and heal. And I'm not talking about politically, like, you know, heal as a nation. I'm talking about just personally and spiritually. Like I've had to do it. I've had to be like, okay, you know what? I need to, you know, cut back on the drinking. I need to, I'm going to start doing jujitsu. I'm going to start like focusing on me. And it was like a hard line where it's like people you just have to take care of yourself instead of waiting for our governance or just the way our media and public guidance goes. Like that's never going to come. We're not going to get back to normal. And unless you take it upon yourself to give yourself a reset, you're not going to have that closure, And I think, and I do think that that's tragic for the people that are there fighting for their jobs,
Yeah.
So I mean, you guys know it just by your traveling and interviewing people over the last couple of years.
Oh my God. It's been a huge change, and like listening to you two talk right now. I'm not a father, love to be one day. But the fact, like, that should be such a special moment where you're there with your wife. And I get it's stressful, right? That your poor wives are going through a lot, trying to pass a human out of their body, right? And now it's like you're telling like these poor women who are in massive amounts of pain, about to bring life in this world. You're putting masks on them, all this stuff that's just not necessary, and then putting you guys out of the room, stressing you out. Like that sucks. That's a moment that shouldn't have that at all. That should be such a precious time, and it's kind of ruined. And it puts you guys under the mental stress. Like you're pacing around in a room. That's messed up. That shouldn't have happened.
Super nervous.
Well, yeah. It is such a special time that not even that can ruin it. I like that. It was I don't know. It was like the defining characteristic or like defining moment for me where I'm like, I gotta stop, being a boy and be a man. It's like I don't know. It's just something that's supernatural about looking into your kid's eyes for the first time, and it's like nothing that they could do could take that away from you.
Damn, dude.
That was deep.
Yeah.
That was really deep.
Super deep. And you're very. I would agree with that statement. And it's like for all the semantics of the BS surrounding the situation. I mean, the only reason why I was mad, like with the second one, was that they wouldn't let me in the room because it was a surgical procedure, and like having a little bit of the medical base, right? You're constantly thinking like worst case scenario, or at least that's how I am, So it's always like, if this happens and this happens, but like you feel helpless. Now, as soon as I came into the room, it was like all of it went away because it was like, okay, that box is checked. Let's move on to the next portion. Sure. This is how I kind of approach things in my life, but it was interesting because it didn't happen until months later. I was talking with my wife about it, and she's just like, how did you feel about that you couldn't even be in there? And I was like, I never really thought of it like that, because I was just so glad I got to be at the hospital, right? Because I was, and right, because your initial thing was like, fuck, I may not be there. I'm going to lose my mind,
Well, and it's like you said before, you're like, how far are they going to push me to where I'm going to be that viral, know? And then they're, it's like, and so you're sort of mentally preparing yourself, like, bring it. Like, nothing's going to keep me from being with my wife and kids.
Oh, I was fired up, dude. Like, I was going to be like, here we go.
Yep.
This is where I get fired from everything in my life because I made a huge scene,
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of highlight something you said that I thought was actually really important. You talked about that the change that needs to happen from people is not like shouldn't be like anticipated on being changed from the top down, right? From like our government's pushing, right? We've all taken a snapshot of time to show how much the government really can influence and change your life, whether you like it or not. And I think the healing process, like you're saying, it does come from yourself. Like that, like, hey, like as a society, we need to stop like relying on and I'm not saying like I'm an anarchist or anything, but at all. Like I know it's a necessity, but I feel like in these times, like we're not going to be in any position in the short term to where I think we're going to be going, in my personal opinion, we're going to be going in like a great direction. I think that this is going to take a lot of time in order for there to be a course correction of like, hey, maybe someday we'll get people in these government positions that can take like a step back and be like, hey, look, we've been messing up. Let's change this. And like to help everyone, if that's the overarching goal, then to help everybody, then do it. You know what I mean? Stop taking billions of dollars and dumping them into shit where we don't see any change. You know what I mean? Which that'll never happen. But it's in the meantime, I think the one thing that we all can control as individuals is us individually.
Yeah.
Right. So take the time to get into jiu-jitsu, whatever your outlet is, to have that like kind of mental, spiritual wellness, and like check those boxes, enjoy the time that you have for yourself or with your families or whatever. I think that's like, that needs to be what we see on TV.
100%.
You know what I mean? But we don't. Because now it's fucking monkeypox. I just saw something about the border again got brought up. The whole thing with Martha's Vineyard and taking. It's like there's zero.
It's unrelenting.
It doesn't stop. And like I understand that it's like the news is not the news anymore. The news is a public like.
It's damn near propaganda.
It's a fucking show, dude.
Yeah, it's
a
ridiculous.
show. They're like, "What do you want to get pissed off today, Bob?" They're like, "Well, let me tell you. Did you hear they brought whatever And it's like, I don't know. I think it's just the whole country, or like just people in general, need to focus on self-reflection.
It's definitely global now. I think that's one thing with the pandemic. It's like you really start. It always amazed me again through my little platform of this company. I've had so many people from other countries like start bashing the United States. I'm like, hey, why don't you stay in your lane and focus on your system? It's like don't be hopping over into the United States and try to tell me about a government that you know nothing about.
Well,
you're listening to something on God knows what, and then just need to vent. I'm like, go do that somewhere else. And so you start to see like because this was a problem for everyone across the globe, there's that negative side where people are being that guy, the male Karens. Where are they? Chads?
Yeah.
Like you have those guys, but on the other side of it, it's like, dude, we have so many good people, like I said, that are coming together. I mean, through the Firefighters for Freedom, I've met some guys there that are like just quality human beings.
Oh, rad.
Like
rad.
Yeah.
Man.
And I'm like, they're great. And it that's the kind of stuff where it's like that makes it worthwhile. And we'll get there, but we just got to keep, having conversations like this and navigating our own ships,
Yeah. And that's, I think that's really where we need to, how do I say this? Look at me trying to be
speechless,
correct.
lost for words.
It's not that. I don't want to like say it where I sound like just like, yeah, we got to change, and I don't know why my alter ego is some hillbilly. It's really not. But
the mustache brings it out in people,
Yeah, right. I know. I was like,
all good.
I'm trying. I just started to grow. We'll see. I got about 3 months, but no, I think like just the ability to have a conversation, right? Like we've lost that entirely. Like it turns out that I may not agree with you, but I want to hear what you have to say about it. Whether that's because I'm trying to like figure out what I think you're wrong, or I'm completely open to having my mind be changed by talking to somebody. And at the end of the conversation, even if we completely disagree about something, and let's say it's whatever to you is the most important, and we completely disagree, we should be able to keep moving forward because we're people. We have our own lives.
We disagree.
100%.
That's mature.
It is, and we've lost it.
Yeah.
We've lost it all completely. And it's like I don't know how that will ever come back. I have optimism here. Like I feel like at some point, most things in life are cyclical. We're in kind of a crazy moment. I feel like eventually we will get back to somewhat. And I don't even want to say normal because I don't even think normal doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's like whatever it is at the time, but at least in a position where, it's not a wrong thing to disagree, and you don't have to think that I'm an evil person because I do, or vice versa, which is crazy because I love talking to, like me personally, I love talking to people that I don't agree with.
100%.
Because that's the only way. That's the only way you freaking learn. It's the only way you learn.
Yeah.
I can sit here and talk to you and like listen to your spiel, and I'd be like, hey, at the end of the day, I still don't agree with you, but like we can talk.
It's like
right, so we're cool, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's an invigorating feeling sometimes too. You're like, I never thought of it that way.
True.
It's like when someone like opens your mind a little bit, opens the door, you're like, that's brilliant. I don't know why I didn't think that. I don't know why I didn't like even like remotely like cross that line. And that's a good feeling when you talk to people that are like, okay, cool. Like you you steered my ship in a different direction. That's great.
Absolutely. And I think I don't know. Like we get the opportunity to do this a lot, right? Whether it's someone that we agree with or don't agree with, it's just like we're gonna talk, And at the end of it, it's like high five. That was fun. You know what I mean? Because I mean that's like the most figurative old school way of learning is like sitting in a group of talking to everybody, and that's how you hash things out. You talk about it. You bring things up. Where hey, we all have like little computers that are on us right now. Well, it's like, pull that up. What did you hear about this? Or or my favorite thing is like if I see something where I'm like, oh shit, that sounds crazy. I'll spend like an hour looking shit up about it, and if I can't find anything on it, then I'm like, cool. I feel like that comment or whatever I read was bullshit. And then when I hear someone else talk about it, whether it's, narrative, anti-narrative, whatever, I'll be like, hey, did you know that has zero base on what was being said? Or like, and if you can, you should try to find it. And then normally that person will get back to me like, dude, I didn't find shit about anything. I was like, see, you don't freaking know.
Yeah.
And that's on a lot of different levels.
I mean, as far as our phones go too, and again, just because of, the people that I interact with on social media and the political nature of things, if you can get away from your phone and go find a hard copy book, like I've for whatever reason, I've saved every book that I've read.
Nice.
Front to back. It kills my wife. She's like, get rid of these, buy a Kindle. I'm like, no, like, I don't know. It's just something about it.
So that's how I felt about a Galaxy
Kindle.
phone.
No freaking Kindle. I love it.
Yeah. I'm just like,
okay, babe.
Yeah. And then you go back and open some of these books and start, like, I was one of the type of person that highlights and I put an index card in there and I write the page number and then the thought that I had, like why that was important to me. Nice. And I'll go back and read those books. And then you like try to Google some of those things and it's like vastly different. The concepts are vastly different than what you can get on your phone than what you're going to find in a hard copy book. Like, well, I've read this book from front to back and that's not what it meant. That's what it said, but that's not the context, So I don't know. I think when you're talking about eventually, things are, circular. We'll get back to that, but I think there's a lot of stuff that are on our phones that are purposely misguiding us. And I've just found that out through a lot of like religious context too, like Christianity and talking and listening to different podcasts and the way that these guys talk about things. I'm like, you have two Christians talk about the same thing and go in completely different directions.
Yeah.
And it's all about your inputs, It's like one guy's reading one thing and the other guy's reading a different thing.
That's a good point.
And when I should maybe make that a little clearer. I don't mean that this is the answer to everything. So when you're cross-referencing, 100%. I mean, that's why it's so ironic that there's even companies that label themselves as fact checkers. Because fact checker is based upon what? Based upon whatever your personal belief is and interpretation of context of text. Because the three of us can read a paragraph and we can all three have a different interpretation of what the most important or key takeaways are, right?
Yeah.
So when you have like someone that labels himself as a fact checker, my favorite one though, because I still read them. Yeah. They're like, fact check. I'm like, let's see what they have to say. 100%. And it's all mostly wrong, mostly correct, kind of misleading. And you're like, what?
Well, remember I told you
those aren't answers. Those are not answers.
They hit me because for the longest time, I was always posting Epstein didn't kill himself.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff with Hillary Clinton. And dude, I was starting to get flagged.
Yep.
They didn't like that. And I finally got one more warning. Like, if you don't stop, we're going to deactivate. You're going to be in jail.
Oh, they will.
Internet jail?
Yeah, internet jail. Yeah.
Our initial account was upwards of like 16,000 followers, which I know isn't like a lot for
still good
for those people, for the people in that arena.
Right.
But for me, I was like, oh, like I'm nobody, but I thought that's great. And during the COVID stuff, I was posting a lot of content, and they'd get flagged, and they took me off Instagram. They locked me out of the Facebook.
This is your company.
Yeah. They locked me out of Facebook. So you can't go into your Facebook to appeal the Instagram. You have to go into Facebook. It wouldn't let me. Call it coincidence, and I wouldn't believe this, and like I didn't believe it when people were telling me, unless it happened to me firsthand, which it did. They delisted me on Google.
What?
Yeah, you couldn't find me on Google.
Hold on.
My website, my domain host, like shut down and asked me to resubmit all of my business licenses.
Oh, no. So you're telling me
all within, I would say 48 hours.
So just from Instagram, it had that snowball effect. So they're all communicating.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
That is incredible. I didn't know they had the power to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just you know that they're communicating just on the fact if you Google someone's, their Instagram account pops up, on the search results. Right. Yeah. So they're all integrated and they all communicate with each other. It was unreal how fast it happened. And you'd have when they talk about bots, I'd have 30 people within 5 seconds just bombarding, and we're going to flag him. It's so I don't know how they do it. I don't know if they're bots or if they're actual real people or what, but it's definitely organized, and I mean, it was sort of a bummer. We've never even, now we're the shadow band. I'll get 65,000 and then overnight I'll lose 150. And it stays in that area. It never really grows anymore.
God, dude, that's so interesting that happens, dude. Mm-hmm. That's freaking crazy. You see, okay, so you talked about listening to podcasts about faith. You seem like a person with conviction, and that you seem very self-aware. I mean, has your faith played a big role in what's been happening the past few years with your company and giving you strength even when your child was being born and that difficult situation? And how's that has that helped you, not helped you? I mean, where's that taking you?
Man, that's sort of a deep question. Well, I don't know if you guys knew that I was born with hemihypertrophy. I was supposed to be a twin.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, I was supposed to be a twin. The joke is I ate my twin in the womb. Jeez. We're on the grinder and we're running. We're running, in our shorts and everything. And one of the instructors Conforti, what the F's wrong with your leg? I ate my twin, sir. And I look at them because I want the reaction. I look at them across my eye and they just look at each other what did he just say?
Sorry?
Yeah. But in any case, my left leg was longer than my right and more cells on the left side of my body than the right. And it was longer by 4 inches. So I had a lift on my shoe growing up. And I just say that because from the jump, life has always been hard for me, but not in the point where it was normal. I didn't know any different. It isn't until that I'm older and I look back on certain things where I'm like, dang, any other person would have handled that way differently. Maybe I was just dumb and naive or whatever. It was my life. It wasn't something that I held as a negative. It just was what it was. It's all I ever knew. Anyways, I bring that up because my parents put me into a Catholic school and it was horrible. Yeah, I had a full leg cast because I'd have corrective surgery. I have kids come up and just, hit me in the nuts while I'm in a wheelchair and stand arm's distance away and not because I couldn't do anything about it.
Kids can be so freaking evil, dude.
Well, especially at a religious school.
Oh, yeah.
Even the nuns were unreal. It's yelling, screaming, I didn't know what communion was, so we'll follow the rest of the kids up and they're like, you go sit down. You're not, it's very
Christ-like. Jeez, man.
You're just
let's just call it like it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I got stabbed in the bathroom. They jumped me on my birthday, It's
at a Catholic school.
At a Catholic school. So I just bring that up and I can go into stories so I would just bend your mind. But it made me lose faith. I'm there is no God because he wouldn't put someone through that, especially a kid. And I just didn't really pay much credence to God up until, I don't know, probably about 10 years ago. And then there's been certain things that have happened in my life where I'm it's God telling me, speaking to me hey, I'm right here.
Wow.
In our academy, some guy, asked me, and I bring it up to him to this day all the time, but he asked me, he's like, hey, can I pray with you? Which is sort of a weird thing in the middle of an academy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? You're a fire station, right? I mean, that's just not normal.
Yeah.
I get it.
And given my background and everything, I was like, well, I'm not going to turn anything down, all the help I can get right now. So, and I felt this warmth, it touched me to where it was the most insane feeling that I've ever felt. And it's it's him, hey, yeah. I'm here. I got you. So certain things that have happened to me where it did change the course of my life, and it does give me more conviction, and I do feel I am principled I grew up in a small town where, our population was 1,200. My parents taught me right and wrong. They taught me, whether I liked it or not, they made me do manual labor, And at some point you have to trust yourself enough to have those convictions and stand by them. And then also it's like, I'm human. I have the capability to be wrong.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you own up to it. You say like, you know what? I messed up.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. I was wrong. And like a sincere apology, this has made me better,
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't think people have that self-reflection for the most part. A lot of people don't. I think a lot of firemen do,
Oh, I mean, I think we do just because of everything we deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
We see, and whether guys want to admit it or not, whatever. I mean, it's happening. And I like bringing that subject up and talking with just people or guests about it because it's interesting to see everyone has their own story in their life, what they've been through. And let's be real, everyone's gone through suffering. I don't care who you are. Everyone's life has been difficult at some point. Yeah, and it's going to happen again. That's just the reality of life. But how faith, for me, like being raised in a Christian home, going to Christian school, my Christian school, I mean, Jordan knows, we brought a lot of people on from there, and we all hated it. It was crazy, right?
Yep.
It seems like it was the worst kids were there. But the good that came out of that, because it created such a solid base for me that even when I turned away from it for so long, like you hit a point in your life, we have nothing left but to pray.
Absolutely.
And you fall back on that base. You're like, oh my God, like this is all I know that's going to help me right now and save me. And I've had those moments like you've talked about where you're like, dude, so it's amazing when someone will step up just to do one kind thing, whether it's buy you lunch or just say, hey, dude, I want to pray for you real quick, or do something kind for you, how that can have such a huge mental shift, because you're like, oh my God, somebody cares. Because you feel, for me, there's a lot of times I feel like we live in this world where everyone's just selfish.
Yeah.
And for us as firefighters and what we do, we're used to serving people. I think that's almost a calling for us, and we like to help, we want to, but there's so many times where I feel like I can't even help myself.
Yeah.
And you're just like, God dang, it's just hard. Like, what do I do? That's why I like talking about, like, people's spirituality or religion or whatever anyone wants to call it. Because I don't care believe what you want to believe, but I want to see like your thought process, because you've been through some stuff. I had no idea that stuff you went through when you're growing up, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wild, but gosh, it to me, it seems like it's made you such a mature person mentally and spiritually. Because even when you're talking right now, I was thinking, dude, this guy's got some serious resolve. I could feel, I could tell he's got some conviction in him,
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, like you said, life's rough. There used to be like in Westerns, they'd say that all the time. Even Rocky, you take your hits, you get back up. It's like when you're riding horses, when you're surfing, you had a podcast the other day where you're talking about, how you just got to let go and let the current like sort of just move you.
Yeah.
And then you pull yourself back up to the top,
Yeah.
Those are life experiences that, some of the most admired people and the people that I look up to have had a hard life.
That's a good point.
It's like they have that perspective, where, life's gotten easy for a lot of people, and they just don't have the ability to be like, okay, what can I do to be better and move forward?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting what I actually talked about this with my therapist the other day. I went to therapy. What suffering will teach you. It's really, people can get real bitter from it. And I understand. Sometimes you feel like life is unfair and things happen. You're like, dude, what the F is going on? This is not cool. But one thing she really honed in on, which is cool because she's a Christian therapist, really, really cool lady. I love going to her. And she's like, Tam, a lot of things that, I don't attend church much, but I still have my faith. But she was saying a lot of things that are happening in the modern church today are a disservice to people. Because back in the day, they used to talk about suffering. Get to the ugly things of life that you are truly going to deal with. The difficult times, instead of just to feel good, be happy, like life's going to work out, God's on your side. Cool. I get that part. But we need to talk about the part where Laura also says, like, you will have suffering in this life. It's going to be hard. It ain't going to be easy. I'm not promising you blue skies, but I will always be there. But what suffering has taught me about myself and bringing in that reflection into self where it's like, okay, I'm going to change this part of me now because this is not working. Or this sucked. I should have seen the warning signs. It gives you that life experience. But what it's also taught me is empathy. It's given me a lot of empathy towards just like, not even just fellow humans, but my friends, people that I hold dear and love. When they start going through tough times, it's like, you don't want to run or turn your back on them. You want to be there.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I ain't going to judge you. I just want you to know you're not alone. Like, this is going to be hard. Let's be real. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. I remember a few people saying it to me, a few different instances in my life, and it didn't take away the pain in that moment. But I was like, okay, because they start telling you their story and the suffering and the good and the bad and the things that were out of their control and the things that were in their control that they messed up. And it's like, don't go down this path. Or here's how I dealt with this. Or, hey, you know what? Purely, there's no way through this but going right through the middle. And it's going to hurt. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to come out back on top, you know?
That's the one thing that they don't teach us, like growing up as boys. You know, it's like
yeah.
It's like when you're being taught like what it is to be a man, and you know you're a boy and you're going to be a man. It's like they teach you to sort of like just sort of take those hits and don't show emotion and bottle it all up, and like the strong don't complain about that stuff. You know, like you just trap everything inside, and then like you're saying, it's like I admire you for going to a therapist. Like I won't do it. And having this conversation with you today makes me think, like, okay, maybe, but it's like, I won't have that vulnerable moment with someone I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
I got you.
And I don't, you know, it's just a weird feeling, but like trapping all that stuff inside and not having empathy for other people. Yeah. Like we're not taught how to do that. We're taught to share toys, but we're never like really, we're taught to be nice to people, but we don't tell them why. You know, it's like, It's like, look at these people and know that they have something going on and help them, you know, and with the mental health stuff around, you know, as firefighters as a whole, it's like we put these posters up and we say these things, these taglines, but we're not still really taking care of each other.
Yeah.
And it's disheartening. And there's a lot of us that see that, you know, but it's just those of us that have broken through that point where we can be like, have that self-reflection and care about other people on a different level, you know?
Yeah.
Man, I've been just, you guys going back and forth. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, there's so many things. I think the biggest thing on all that is like, you know, the growth through struggle piece. You know, whether that's finding your way with spirituality or belief in God, and you know your relationship with Him. You know, everyone kind of has a different like tipping point. You know, and I feel like I kind of grew up in a religious base, and I like went away from that for a while. And honestly, I don't have a specific moment. I feel like when I remembered, like, you know, I was like, I probably went back to church. I think I ended up going, actually, that might be what happened, is that for some reason I ended up going to a church service, and I remember like basically almost crying while I was in there listening to a sermon, and I was getting all teary eyed and stuff. And I was just thinking like, wow, where have I been? You know, like, why did I like feel so much that like this was stupid? Because I did, like, I 100%. Like, and like, I don't know what, like, maybe it was because I, you know, felt that way. And then, you know, like I got into this industry early and I saw a lot of messed up things like early. And I think I questioned a lot of like, why would you let this happen to this kid? Why would you let this happen to this, you know? And like, that kind of pushed me in a different direction. And then it was like coming back to it, you know, had these like just overwhelming emotional responses, which was kind of gnarly because like I feel like I'm not like super emotional person.
It's a physical response.
Totally. And then like even what you're saying, right? Like how do you prepare like a kid to be an adult or a boy to be a man, you know? And I think I grew up thinking like, the tougher you are is the less you complain, you know, which if you ask my wife, she'd be like, bullshit, you complain about everything. And I'm like, and that's because I'm different now, babe. Yeah, you know. But I do think that there's a lot to it, like you guys are talking about, like whether you're finding that in faith or whether you find that in community, just being able to really deliver the why portion, right? And I think that's I hopefully like that's what I want to instill in my kids. Like I don't want to grow up, want them to grow up and not be able to handle things.
Sure.
Because I do think that there's a fine line between being tough and a fine line between being like holding it in purposefully.
Totally agree.
And I think that's like having that demeanor, or not demeanor, but that goal of being able to like, look, like bad things happen. They do. And there's a lot of things that we can't control, but what you can control is like your family loves you, your friends hopefully love you. And, if you have the spiritual connection, know that God loves you. And, being able to use those things as your like fallback on like, hey, sometimes you can't do it yourself. You can't, but it doesn't mean you can't keep trying to take steps moving forward and bettering your position in life and all, in relationships and everything. And it's just, I don't know, it's really refreshing hearing that from you guys talking about that. I think that's really good. And hopefully a lot of people take that approach because I think we'll be better as a whole, just as far as people, if we can kind of have that.
Not comparing my kids to horses, but, it's like when a war horse, training a horse, you have to take a little bit of its wild side out, and you're trying to teach this horse to, turn left, turn right, have someone on its back riding it. It's like you have to train this horse. But at the same time, you have to leave a little bit of its nature in it because it needs to be able to advance, back in the day with like cannon fodder and gunshots and everything. It's like you can only take someone so far. You got to teach them the skills to survive and embrace their nature and guide their nature in the right direction, And I do think faith has a lot to do with that. I think that's the precipice of what's right and wrong, what's good and bad. And I mean, I remember when my time changed when I was like, okay, I'm going to start going to church again. And like, I hear you. It was, I had a teacher at that Catholic school, man, she was the worst. Smoker, so she had that smoker's cough and voice.
Hardcore nun, dude. Old school.
I don't think she was a nun. She wasn't a nun. She was just one of the teachers. But she was just mean. Well, I ran into her, 10 years later when I was a volunteer fireman in a PCF, and she's yelling at the checker at a CVS that she didn't get her newspaper. And I'm like, and I look at her and I'm like, oh God, that's Miss Stanley.
Oh baby.
Yeah. And I was like, hi, Miss Stanley. I'm like, and she's like, she looks at me, she's like, oh my God, they gave you a badge.
No, she didn't.
Yeah.
Dude.
And I'm like, okay, cool. She remembers me. This is great. Like, why did you even say anything? And so I'm like, I'll walk you to go get your newspaper. She's like, I don't want anything from you. I'm like, okay. I tried, but then, we ran on her a couple times. And anyways, I just met my wife. We were dating, and she's like, my grandmother like really wants you to come to church. I'm like, hard pass, no. She must have asked 100 times, no. And it was Easter, and she's like, Kyle, my grandmother would really like you to come to church with us. And I'm like, fine. I was just so reluctantly, but it's like at some point you just have to do what your wife tells you to, like,
keep the peace, baby.
Yeah, let her have a win. I'm like, well, I go into this church, and her grandmother's ecstatic that I'm there. And it's like you said, as soon as I walk in, I feel like my body, I'm going to spontaneously combust. Like, I'm such a terrible person, and I'm going to go sit in here and fake it to my girlfriend's grandmother so my girlfriend will like me more. It's like, I'm like, this is terrible. Like, and I felt it, like this just visceral feeling of just like shame and just heat. Like, I started having like a panic attack, almost like sweating. And I sit down, and we're there, and I look over, and I look at my wife. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now.
She was there.
And I was like, she's here.
Stanley?
Yeah.
No way.
And my wife's like, what? My wife's like, what? I'm like, that teacher, she's right here. She's sitting next to me. I'm like, I can't believe you made me come here. Like, and
started getting you worked up, huh?
Well, they start singing, the hymns or whatever. And this lady who didn't have like a happy bone in her body is just singing And I'm like looking at her, and she's so happy. And now she's missing both of her legs. She was diabetic.
Oh, wow.
And she's in a wheelchair. But that was the moment for me that changed. And as soon as I looked at her being happy, I was like, I again felt it. Everything just shed off, like water falling off. And I was like, I was so happy that I went that day. I'm like, again, him talking to me, I was like,
yeah,
I needed to be there at that exact point. And so things happen for a reason. I don't want to go get any more like too deep on you guys, but
no, you're good.
But
we love it.
But it's like I remember those pivotal moments where it's like, okay, again, self-reflect. I gotta like start working more on me and the people around me. So
I like it, dude. And I think that actually plays into your company because I can, you hear the word in the media right now, like patriot, and people, patriots. I'm just like, no. That's not like, we don't need, patriots not defined that way. Mm-hmm. Not at all. I mean, you love this country. You love our freedoms. You love Americans. We can have people we don't agree with, but I mean, I see it in your clothing brand. That's why people are buying it. I buy it, dude. It's awesome, right? It's like, yes, America, freedom. And it seems like that's kind of what you're pushing, right? At least with your clothing and the hats and stuff, because you got rad stuff.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, you got really rad stuff. So I, to me, that's my perception of it. And I think your success is still going to keep going because you have that push and that there's more freedom-loving Americans that are patriots, and patriot not being a bad name, that love this country, and they want to wear that stuff. They want to,
Absolutely.
Isn't that weird that word, patriot, is misconflated?
It's ridiculous.
It makes no, like, I hear that, and like everything that you're saying, right, is that like now, like if you're like, oh, I'm patriotic. Well, what does that mean? It means I love this country. I love the people in the country. I like being an American. I'm proud of where I come from.
Did you ever think that would be a time in history where like I'm pro freedom and like, well, you're a terrorist?
Yeah.
What?
Like literally.
Like,
or you're a right-winged extremist.
Yeah.
An extremist. You're like, I'm actually not that right-wing in all honesty. But like, because I have like traditional values of like just, respecting and wanting our country to do the best it can do for us, the people that live here, and even saying that probably sounds bad to some people. They're like, he said us. What does that mean? I'm like, just to make it very clear, us means all of us, everybody.
Right.
I'm not, there's no group. It's just, I want our country to do well. I want the people to flourish. I want people to do great. Which is like, again, to me, that doesn't sound weird, but I feel like saying that out loud feels awkward because where we've gone in a relatively short amount of time, that if you're patriotic, then it means you stand for like bad stuff, you know? So I love hearing that. I like the clothing brand, everything you guys stand for, and the merchandise is sick too. So, I mean, that's a caveat to the scenario.
It's been fun. And again, made a ton of good people. So it's
is that hat available to buy or what?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which one am I wearing today?
Shoot, it's American flag, and in the blue you have the S and the M.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy that.
I gotta say too, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like,
that hat,
I think I'm gonna buy that hat. I really like that hat.
Absolutely.
Well, dude, it seems like you're very serious about your company. Is this something you want to keep pushing, where you can like eventually leave what you're doing now and hopefully have it like a big full-time thing?
I don't think I'll ever leave the fire service. Gotcha. I don't know how. I mean, I'd like to get to the point where I don't have to work overtime, or it's like where I can just do my days and spend my time with my family. But I enjoy my job. I can't imagine not having it. There'd be a big void for me. As far as the company goes, the idea is to keep it going. I don't ever have a thought about shutting it down or turning the page. The logo, the brand, I want to make it a livestock, certified livestock. And my idea is to open a ranch, get back up to where I used to live. And, that's one thing, having our kids, it's like, what am I going to teach my boy? Like living down here, it's like he's going to mow the lawn and empty the dishwasher and take out the trash.
Right.
It's like I want to get to a point, to a place where he's going to have some like real responsibilities and be around other people that, work hard and value, what they have. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to grow it, and then hopefully have a ranch and have have it grow that way as well too. So
I'll tell you what, dude. If anybody can do that, you can.
Yeah, I was like,
appreciate you.
And dude, don't sell yourself short. It's teaching responsibility, and like whether it's as benign, not benign, but like, you know, taking out the trash, taking out the, you know, or mowing the lawn and doing whatever else around housely duties. You know what I mean? Like having those, I think, parenting skills or understanding of like, hey, look, it's just the overall deal is to teach kids that sometimes you're going to have to do things whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Right. Now I'm being like, obviously there's like way more in depth as far as like labor stuff, but like you've set a good example, you know, you're full-time firefighter, you own your own clothing label, you're a family man, you're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, even though that maybe that's not the ranch yet, you know what I mean? Like those things that you're showing your kids to being able to do it all, like, hey, look, I could full-time job. I got another job going on here. I'm still here to make, you know, whatever I can make as a father figure, as a husband. You know, I think all those things, like, even though they may not be as large, like I was saying, don't sell that short. That is important, I think, for kids to see, because now they know the understanding. It's like, you know, look, my dad did it, you know, I could do it. You know what I mean? So I think that's cool, you know? And, I mean, the ranch does sound sick though. I mean, that's fucking cool, but.
Well, I just, through 2020 and the pandemic, I'm like, I just really don't like people. Like,
I'm right there with you, dude.
I like to go live somewhere where I don't have to like look at my neighbors. I just want to like sit on my porch and have my coffee and, you know, not stress out about city life, you know?
Yeah.
We get enough of it through work. I just want to debrief.
Jeez, dude, you're telling me about it, bro. So people can say get in touch to you, buy merchandise. What's your Instagram?
Instagram, the original one, like I said, has been shut down. That was just at Sea of Mud. We're working on getting that back up. Right now it's at Sea of Mud _apparel.
Okay.
The website is www.seaofmud.com. Easy as that.
Dude, easy. Yeah. I love it. I think it's awesome, dude, because I love your company. We're such huge supporters, bro.
Thank you.
Huge supporters. But, dude, thanks for being so open, dude. I appreciate your heart and what you're talking about. And more people need to hear that and hear the things that we struggle with and go through and how we can be down the dumps but rise to the top. We can still have our jobs and still go after our dreams and have different things on the side to work towards what we want. That's how you do it. It's
absolutely
old-fashioned hard work, dude. And putting a dream down on paper and going for it. And I do it all the time.
Yeah, you do.
Jordan, I mean, you just my thought is like, what do you have to lose? Go for it. I mean, on the other side of fear can be so much freaking success.
100%.
But you gotta be willing to put in that time and the work and the suffering, you know. And
you have to take risks.
Oh, totally.
Well, if you don't, nothing's gonna happen.
Absolutely.
That's a fact. You know, I mean, I'm sure there's a percentage of people that haven't done anything and just fall into things. But for the rest of us, you know, you don't know until you try.
For the rest of us normies, dude.
Or normies. Dude. Oh, don't say normies. That might turn into a thing.
I'll get canceled again.
All right.
We have a couple questions here, dude. You're going to answer first, and then we're going to go around and answer with you, dude.
All right. So we're going to start with a real easy one. Okay. All right. And they're dumb. So they're not super introspective. I'm just kidding. A couple of them are. But would you rather have a flock of geese swarm you every time you fart, or never use a phone or computer again?
I'll probably never use a phone and computer again.
Ooh, I like that. I'm with him on that. I think I would never use a phone or computer again.
Really?
I just want to get away from that stuff.
Use a phone or a computer ever again?
I'm okay with like a giant EMP just resetting everyone. We can get back to the basics.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that from you. You're the ranch. You're self. What is that? Not certain.
Self-sufficient, baby.
Sufficient. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. And you have geese. I mean, you always got a food supply. You're ready to go.
Well, see, that's what I was thinking. Like the caveat to this fart scenario is that if we do go down a terrible route where we are going back to the essential roots of existence, having geese flock you every time you fart, you've got a constant food, and geese are good food.
Yeah.
You know?
You got eggs. Yeah, you got everything.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'd be like, hey, you hungry?
We got food, honey.
We got food. You never have to worry. It was like, and they probably make you gassy. It's a win-win.
They keep coming.
All right. So next one would be, okay. Which celebrity that everyone thinks is hot do you disagree about?
Ooh.
Which celebrity that everyone thinks is hot? I don't know. Maybe Nicki Minaj, I guess. Do people think she's hot?
Yeah.
I know she's famous.
For sure people think she's hot.
I don't get it.
Nicki Minaj.
Yeah.
I got you.
I'm not in.
Mine's it's Beyonce. I think people hype her up a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm
agree.
kind of like, don't get me wrong, great performer, great live show, fun music, cool. But I'm like, whatever.
You know, there's a bar in Huntington that has a picture of her like wearing a cowboy hat and like a flannel. And I was like, who is that? I'm like, she's cute. Like, who is that? Like, that's Beyonce. I'm like, what? So, I mean, I'm sure she had her day, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. That's for me.
But I agree with you.
Yeah. Everyone makes a big deal about it. I'm like, whatever.
Okay. I see that. I'm going to go a different angle. I'm going to choose a guy.
Oh.
I think, like, I don't understand what the physical attraction to Machine Gun Kelly is.
Yes.
Oh, dude.
100%.
Very good.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So, like, because I was thinking Post Malone, but, like, people don't really think he's just cool. And,
Yeah.
like, I think he's great. Like,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
like his music. I think he seems like a nice person.
Big UFO guy, too. I love that.
Yeah, right. Like a guy that I'd really actually like to hang out with this person because I feel
100%.
like it'd be fun. You know, with him, like I think super, like everyone thinks he's super attractive and like, I mean, not to, you can always rap or not, does like this punk rap kind of mix or whatever, but I just don't see it.
It's sort of like Marilyn Manson. Like a lot of girls like roll into him. I'm like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, but do you think there's more girls that are like, let's say Marilyn Manson heyday? Side note, Marilyn Manson going through some shit right now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's
got some accusations.
No, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Anyway, but I just see that guy and I think like he just stands for like the wrong stuff. And I feel like anytime and I can kind of feel like that's how I feel a little bit about Nicki Minaj. I think she's a beautiful woman, but I don't like what she represents.
Yeah.
And like, you know, not the work hard, grind, be successful. I'm behind all that, but it's the basis of which you're pushing it. You know, it's like, I don't want to hear about how you feel about something when you're making money talking about your wet panties.
Yeah.
You know, dope song.
It is.
Okay.
I feel
But
you.
when you go from, you know, WAP being a #1 hit and everyone loves it, and then you're cameoing on children's.
Is that Nicki
TV.
Minaj?
Maybe
I got
Nicki
mixed up.
Minaj or
I think that's Meg Thee Stallion.
I don't even know.
Is
Cardi
it?
B.
Cardi B.
Yeah, Cardi
That's
B.
what
Cardi B.
that's what I messed up. Both attractive women.
Yes.
I don't mean it like in that way. I'm just saying what you represent as far as I shouldn't say what you represent. It's I don't know. Well, look, it'd be the same thing. Like take like we can do Jay-Z, right?
Yeah.
You know, amazing.
Old chicken legs, dude.
Well, dude, but like we're a hard, no doubt, hardworking, grinding, just everything across the board, right? Did everything that he can do. But it's like if you look at the content of what you're putting out there, and you're like, hey, you're talking about, you know, the rap game. And it's a tough one. And don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on this because I was jamming out to some fucking shit on the way over here.
Get in the mood.
You know, get in the mood. But I feel like when you reach that level and now you're a representative of whatever you represent,
There's
you
there's some responsibility with it.
there's 100% responsibility with it. And that we don't have, you know? So it's hard for me to be like, oh, this person, I know that wasn't the question. The question is, who do you think is hot? And I stand by that. I don't think Machine Gun Kelly is attractive in the slightest, but for some reason, Megan Fox wants to bang him. You know, so maybe she's a little crazy.
Well, dude,
know.
I think it's too. It's like, because when I look at Machine Gun Kelly, I don't see someone I would look up to as a man. I'm like, dude, you're weak. Straight up. Like, you're weak. That's my thought, right? And that's me, like, you don't want to judge a book by its cover. But what you see, you're kind of like, I don't know, dude. But I also think it's the culture and celebrity pushing these people.
100%.
They're telling you, this is what's cool.
Yeah.
This is what you need to look like. This is what's awesome, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, let's be real, they don't think for themselves. They follow the crowd, right? I love that company. There's another company, like sheep, or wolves, not sheep, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
Lions, not sheep.
Lions, not sheep.
Sorry.
Wolves. Something like that, yeah.
It's
Lions,
awesome.
not sheep.
Yeah.
But it's true. Most people just go with the flow, comfortable, do what everyone else is doing. But
Yeah.
you get the people who are actually, no, like, I don't agree with that. I think it goes with so many things that we talked about. You know, it's like, do your thing. Do your own thing. That, to me, you see Machine Gun Kelly, I'm like, to me, that's not cool. I think it's ridiculous. I don't even see why he's popular, dude. I don't like his music. I don't like any of it.
I think he came into it after like the Vampire Diaries or something. You know, he wears those trench coats and spiked hair. I don't know.
He's a really tall dude.
Something to do with
So like maybe that's like part of it. He's like a walking billboard, basically.
Yeah, it might be.
I don't know. I was going to ask the next question, but I think this one would be more fun. If you had to box a celebrity, a friendly exhibition bout of boxing or whatever, jiu-jitsu, rolling, whatever you wanted to do. If you got to pick one celebrity to basically fight in a controlled arena for fun and it's agreeable, it's consensual, who would it be?
I'm upstairs right now. Who you don't want to grapple with jiu-jitsu? Tom Hardy. Did you see he won a competition?
No.
A couple.
Tom Hardy just went to a random competition and beat guys who are pretty much pro, right?
Yeah,
He
Tom
got
Hardy's
No kidding.
Yeah.
blue belt or purple belt. Like he's been rolling for a while.
Yeah, dude, he crushed it. He won. I was like, what? Everyone was like, Tom Hardy's here. And then one of the guys spoke up that he won. He got the gold. They're like, how was it? Like, what did he say to you? He's like, Tom Hardy came up and said, forget who I am. Just do what you do. Like, how do you not, dude?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Well, yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Who would you
way.
box, dude?
This might for sure get you guys canceled.
Let's go. Joe Biden, I got you.
Beto O'Rourke.
Oh,
Not really a celebrity, but I mean,
I would consider him.
I would say he's more of a celebrity
damn
than
right
a
we're gonna take
politician.
your-
But I would love to get in a ring with that dude.
What do you mean, bro?
Yeah.
You want to throw hands? I'm Beto.
Yeah. I would. You'd really hurt him probably.
Maybe it'd have to be like an open hand, like slap. That would make it more fun.
Combat jiu-jitsu.
dude, you just humiliated him with open hand slams.
Yeah.
Dude, you know, I think
That's funny.
The most un-Texan. Yeah, I just can't stand that dude. But man,
forget that guy, dude.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, I'd like to box Brad Pitt just to say I got hit by him.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it'd be rad.
Brad Pitt.
Yeah, be cool to be like, yeah, dude, I totally boxed Brad Pitt, and he just fucking beat me down. It was
I
great.
don't think he'd beat you down, dude. I think you'd give him a run. It's Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
He's a
I think-
pretend person.
Yeah, he probably needs a lot of facial moisturizer, but I'm not
If you're
gonna-
gonna do that, let's do Mark Wahlberg.
Ooh, okay. Do you really think you could take Mark? Do you think? Okay,
First of
I'm
all,
gonna back up.
we
Do you
have
think-
this. We have the same birthday, so we're sort of like related, you know. But
Essentially, your
Yeah.
family.
Well, do you think Mark? I feel like Mark Wahlberg is more show.
nah, dude.
Do you think he's really
like
tough?
he's like my man crush. I have to.
Oh, you did?
I fucking love Mark. Mark, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm all about him.
So you think he could really fight?
I think he could probably real fight.
Well, he's a felon. I know that. He was pretty tough back in the day.
yeah.
He was
Well,
doing his, getting in trouble.
Yeah. I like Mark Wahlberg.
yeah.
I know he's a grinder too. He works like his is
Yeah.
a crazy work ethic. I was reading something about him. He like gets up at like 3:00 every morning. So now again, right?
He also
like
makes
life's-
time to pray.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like
Cool.
his day is super I just read this thing. He like wrote down his daily routine, and it was like very extensive. Now I understand to have that routine, you also have to have a lot of money, which he does. So he's able to have this routine. But what I think is cool is that if you were like loaded like that and you didn't have any grind, your day probably wouldn't look like that. So it's like still make times like work out from X, Y, and Z. Make sure you can take the kids to school. Do this with his wife. Then work on whatever projects he's got going. Pick up the kids from school. Do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like I could respect that because it's like even though he lives this like fictitious lifestyle, like he still makes time to, or at least
he stays above the fold too. I mean, he's not. That's one thing I sort of liked about The Rock until recently was like they just do their jobs, they work hard, and they do their thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they stay out of the fray.
Yeah.
And that's the Mark Wahlberg. I don't know. Like I said, man crush.
I'm trying to think of who I'd box. Forever, for a long time, I always used to think it would be Justin Bieber.
Oh,
And it wasn't up until the last few years where it's like, I actually like him. And like, I feel like he's more, he's
He's
kind
changed
of
a lot,
more
dude.
victim of a crazy youth.
Yeah, he's just a
Then
little
he
kid.
is.
Little kid trying to find his way and from all the wrong people. You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So then it's like that kind of changed the thought process on that. It's like if I could box any celebrity, I would like to fight Logan Paul or Jake Paul, one of the two.
Oh, dude, they
'Cause-
look like legit fighters.
Oh, I know they're good, and like I mean they're good at brawling. They're athletic. They both can throw haymakers. But I feel like if I got to train for 6 months, I'd fuck them up. and I mean that in the nicest way. And this isn't a call out because we're not that popular, but hey, you're making like 16 million about, and you're fighting like has-been fighters, except there are actually, that's not true. Jake Paul's fighting Anderson Silva, I think, in the next few weeks.
No.
If you don't know who Anderson Silva is, he was one of the best UFC fighters ever, and he was amazing. And he just fought, Cesar Chavez Jr., and he beat him up pretty good. So I think Jake Paul's in for like some trouble. I know this is kind of going off tangent, and I don't really have anything against the Paul brothers. I think that they're very smart, and they did exactly that. And I was just trying to be funny because I think really I would actually like to fight Machine Gun Kelly because I think he's like a big bitch, and
I'd pay to see that.
yeah, and he's
Just
tall,
so you know.
dude. He's like 6'7". He's got the reach on me, but
Is he really that tall?
He's really tall. Yeah, maybe he's not 6'7". Here, hold on,
Who do you think won between Eminem and him?
Eminem.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's because I just, again, obviously you can tell that I'm not a super fan of Machine Gun Kelly. Even though the song that he put out there on Blast that started the little riff, I thought was a good song. Like I was like, I downloaded it, listened to it at the gym. It gets me motivated. But then the answer with the Kill Shot song from Eminem, I thought was like, he's the OG.
Why would you ever
He's better
try
than
to
you.
go up against Eminem? You're
It worked.
asking to
We're
get
having
wrecked.
a conversation.
I mean, true.
Yeah.
Very true.
I mean,
So true.
Right? You know?
He's 6'4". He's not 6'7".
It's
I
still
got
tall.
this all day, and I weigh
pretty
like
tall, though.
40 more pounds than he does. I was like, I just gotta stay in tight, dude, and work the body. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jordan, I love it, dude. Well, Kyle, you wild man.
Sorry, I don't even know.
You're fine,
This makes it
dude.
sound like I have a problem with him. I really don't. I just think like, if you have the capacity to make an influence on kids, be cool about it. I don't like it when
Hey,
you know.
well, you know what? You never know. Maybe years from now they're gonna go back and hear this. And
What if that happened?
Dude.
He was like, I heard this guy on the podcast call me out. Let's do this. I'd be like, in a fucking heartbeat.
you know, what I'd
dude.
say too.
Jeez.
I'd be like, hey, Kyle,
Can I walk out with you?
Yes.
Yeah.
We should
All
do
right.
an expedition bout, dude. You got Marky Mark. Well, no, Beto. I'd definitely rather see you fight Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah.
And then
Brad Pitt, baby.
if we can get Brad Pitt, you guys are the headliner.
Oh my.
It's like Tim Fisher, Brad Pitt, Monday night, be there.
Oh my God! Hey, you never know, man.
you
It'd be
don't. You
interesting.
never know.
But Kyle, dude, thanks for spending time to come here and be on the podcast, dude.
Thanks for
And,
having me.
Talk about your company. We love it, dude.
Absolutely.
And thanks for being so open and so real and just chatting, dude. I love this stuff. We love doing this. It's been a while. We want to get you on here. So thank you for
Appreciate
taking
it.
the time to come out. And one more time, your Instagram and website so people can order clothing, hats.
At Sea of Mud Apparel or Sea of Mud _apparel. And then the website is just seaofmud.com.
Awesome, dude. Beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This was fun. I wasn't totally sure where this was going. I feel like we went like full spectrum.
It's a great
We
arc.
went deep, kind of like entrepreneurial, friggin' silly. I love it.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. It's been a good time.
Yeah, dude. Anytime. So we do this every time. We're going to do a Let's Go on 3. You ready? Let's do it, baby. 1, 2, 3.
Let's go.
Bye, everybody. And that's it. Thank you for listening in, everybody. I'd like to thank our sound engineer who makes this podcast happen and makes us sound very good, Stephen Clark. And to our first sponsor, 89 Barbers. Look good, feel good, be great. Come get your haircut at 2 locations, Long Beach and in Orange, California. Your appointment can be booked at 89barbers.com. That is BARBRERS. 89barbers.com. Again, look good, feel good, be great. Check it out. It's my barber. He is the man. Thanks, everybody. Bye.